You're listening to the Music Business Breakthrough Podcast with me, your host, Grammy-nominated artist and certified trauma-informed success coach, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. For a long time, I navigated the changing waters of the music industry on my own. And while I was able to garner a bunch of great wins over the years, I do not want that for other musicians. So I founded In the Key of Success to help musicians like you fast-track the process of setting and achieving big goals. In the Key of Success hosts a plethora of resources like my Mastermind Amplify, tons of checklists, and email templates, all available in the free app Releaseify. Make sure to download it today. Whether you need to release some past baggage or break through the BS of the music industry, you're in the right place to level up how you release your music into the world. So let's go get your music business breakthrough and amplify your release. I'm your host, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. I am so excited about this season of the Music Business Breakthrough Podcast, formerly known as Key Conversations. This season is going to be just me and you, and we are not going to be digging into the 101 and 201 of the music industry. We're going to do some deep dives into actual structures and frameworks that are going to make a huge difference for your career once you start to master these things. We're going to start today with the musician success cycle. This is the framework that has transformed how I work at my career and how I easily set and achieve big goals. Here's the story of how it came about. It was a long, long time ago, 2007, and I was on tour with my band in Switzerland, and we had just played this beautiful festival outside for 4,000 people, and we were lying on these lawn chairs on the roof of our amazing hotel, just looking at the mountains. And I was like, this is amazing. I should write some lyrics. But lo and behold, I couldn't come up with anything. And I started to freak out. I was like, oh my gosh, like 2 albums. That's all I had out at the time. I was like, I guess it was a good run. And my bass player was like, what are you talking about? You're in tour mode. Why would you think that you can just bounce back into songwriting mode? And that blew my mind and changed everything for me in terms of how I work at my career. What I realized is that a music career comes in these ebbs and peaks and valleys and flows, and we can't do all the things all at once as much as we want to, especially if you're like me, who's the hustle type A, like, let's get it done. I should be able to do all the things at once. So from that, I started to look at the different ways I'm working at my career. And over the years, after coaching hundreds and hundreds of other musicians, I realized no matter what our goals are and what kind of music we're creating, we all are in one of these 5 phases. So I'm going to share with you what I have developed as the musician success cycle to give you some relief around what do you have to do right now and what do you not have to do right now. The first phase is determining and learning. And what this means is that you get to figure out, what do you want for this time around the cycle? By the way, the reason it's a cycle and not linear is because for those of us who are career musicians, we are in this for the long haul. There's no end. Once I get this, then I'm done, right? So we're constantly going around through these phases. Some of us are in our 5th phase. Some of us are in our 20th cycle. So we're going around, and we're learning every time from the past cycles. So in phase 1, learning and determining, this is where you decide, what do you want to do for this particular time around the cycle? So this means picking a specific goal. We're going to talk a lot about goals and picking goals that really empower you in this season of the podcast. So stay tuned for more episodes on goal setting if you're a little stuck on what to choose. Once you pick that goal, you get to look at, is there anything I need to learn? Is there anything that I need to shift in terms of my mindset? Are there any skills that I need? This is the phase where you get to do that. So maybe you're taking a course on sync licensing if that is part of your goal, or maybe you're learning production because you want to produce your next single. Either way, this is the phase where you get to give yourself some time to really dig in. The second phase is the creation phase. This is where you make whatever asset you need for the rest of the cycle. For a lot of people, this is going to be making a single or making an album. For some people, if you're going to be setting up an email list and really digging into the frameworks and the systems for your fans, maybe this phase is writing a really great welcome series and some nurture series. I'm going to talk a lot more about email in this podcast series as well, so don't worry about that. But the creation phase is where you're really getting to access your muse. Phase 3 is one of the phases I see musicians like to skip the most. It's the admin or the preparing and sharing phase. This is where you are doing the back end stuff. It's kind of like energy is like cog on a railroad. You're like, all right, let's just get through this. This is the branding and the metadata. This can be some email system set up, all back end stuff that you need to have a really solid foundation to go into the next phase, phase 4, which is pitching and promotion. Pitching and promotion can mean a number of different things based on that goal that you set back in phase 1. If you're going after licensing, you might be pitching to licensing agents, to sync supervisors, to directors of movies. But if you're doing something like you're trying to get number 1 on a chart, then you're going to be really promoting to your fans and getting them engaged. But either way, what are you sending to these people? That's what you set up in phase 3. So whether it's a landing page or it's some back-end links, you want to be prepared in phase 4 for the worst, best case scenario. And what I mean by that is, what if something great happens and you have 10,000 people coming to your website? Are you ready to get all those people in your email list? Or are you ready to send off the masters with the metadata embedded if you find someone who loves your song and wants to put it in their movie? You want to be prepared for all of the worst, best case scenarios from the work that you've done in phase 3, so that when you come to the pitching and promotion phase in phase 4, you're ready to go. The energy in phase 4 is very outwards, right? Unlike phase 1, where you're sort of absorbing and learning and getting downloads from the universe, whatever you want to call that. Phase 4 is, okay, now I've got this thing and I want to talk about it and I want to share it and I want to put it out there, as scary as that may be for some people. I want to put it out there in the world. Phase 5 is the fulfillment phase. It's monetizing and maintaining. This means that you can potentially be doing tasks from other phases to sort of tweak and clean up, but energetically, you're moving forward. The snowball has started to gather momentum, and this is where you're getting paid. For example, if in phase 4, you were pitching to music venues and promoters, this is when you go do the gigs. That's the success cycle in a nutshell. When you download the app Releaseify, you can get way deeper into this for free, so go check that out. But I wanted to talk about a couple of pitfalls that I see a lot of musicians get hung up on that I don't want you to get stuck with. The first is, well, Cheryl, what if I have a lot of different projects and they're all in different phases? Like, what phase am I in if I have one band that's here and then my solo project's here? Here's the thing. You want to sync all that stuff up. The better and better you get at noticing where you are for yourself energetically, sort of zoom out, all of these projects are going to line up. The reason we want to be in one phase as a human being, not project-based, is because the overwhelm comes from the whiplash of going from one task that energetically is one way to another one that's really different. Like, it's really different to be writing lyrics than it is to be writing a pitch email. This is what I discovered on that rooftop in Switzerland, was that I was completely in phase 5. I was monetizing and I was fulfilling on the gigs and showing up in a really different space than phase 2, the creation space. I was asking myself to energetically find my muse and shift gears. Transitions for the average person in and out of flow take about 23 minutes. So if you look at your day and how many times are you like, I'm feeling the flow, but then get interrupted by a dog barking, or you get interrupted because you get pulled to social media or something happens, right? It takes about 23 minutes to get back into that flow state. And that's a lot of time wasted. So if you think about doing that over the course of your whole career, you're constantly shifting gears, and that's where the exhaustion and that's where the overwhelm comes from. So to the best of your ability, you want to start to align the work that you're doing across all projects so that you as a person are energetically working from one of the 5 phases. The other question I get a lot from musicians is, what about the stuff that I have to do all the time? For example, like we have to do taxes, or maybe we regularly are teaching piano lessons. Like, what phase does that mean? Am I always in phase 4, or am I always in phase 5? We want to look at the life stuff, the things that are ongoing that we need to do in order to be a responsible human being, whether that means financially or for our families or for our own well-being. And that stuff starts to turn into more of routine and lifestyle, which is separate from the work you're doing. Remember, the success cycle, each cycle is all about achieving one particular goal. I call it a champagne win. I'll talk more about that in later episodes. If this thing that you do regularly is supporting your champagne win, then it's part of the success cycle. And you want to make sure that you're giving it some nice parameters and you're not stuck in any one phase. If it's something that you're doing long-term all the time, then it's just part of your life and it sort of is a foundation for the success cycle to happen on top of. Don't get caught up in too many details. Just allow yourself to look at what phase am I in right now? What tasks do I need to complete in order to feel ready to move to the next phase? And when you start to think of all the things you need to do, identify what phase they belong in, and then give yourself the break to say, oh, I don't need to do that right now. I'm in phase 2. That's phase 4 stuff. And there's so much power and relief when you realize that you don't need to do all of the things at once. So exciting. I dig in much deeper in my free mini course, The Musician's Success Cycle, in the Releasify app, which you can download at www.inthekey.co/app, or on a desktop, go to www.inthekey.co/cycle. Either way, I encourage you to go dig in, and I work with some musicians who might be confused about where they are and help them get real clarity on how to move forward using this framework to reduce overwhelm and just get a lot more effective at the goals that they're working towards. I'm so excited to keep talking about all of these high-level pro tips. So stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for listening.